What is going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to give you a quick overview of what happened with Lucid, go over some of the current data points and everything else that you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So Lucid did go up 1.76%. Very volatile day. So 291 the high, 278 the low, and kind of low volume similar to the last several trading days. So 14.8 million shares being traded, 24.5 is the average. Even despite the lower volume, that 14.8 was not institutions, rather it was just algorithmic trading. So you do see roughly about 5 transactions above $100,000, one big one, so that was 1.27 million, but still I feel like institutions are somewhat hesitant about Lucid. And today there was no news, no SEC filings, nothing like that. NVIDIA earnings just came out better than anticipated, so that should help at least the remaining part of the week. But at the same time, you also had the Fed, so the FOMC meeting minutes came out, and it kind of insinuated that they possibly might be looking at raising rates if the data in the future does justify it. On a flip side, they want to kind of maintain it higher for longer. So not necessarily the best for the EV sector, but despite that though, like I said, no news, no SEC filings, there was one thing that did come out. It wasn't associated to Lucid, but rather Rivian, causing it to go up roughly, I think it's 6-7%, something like that. And it is Rivian partners with Pivot Energy to build community solar in Illinois. So this is where my rant begins about Lucid. I've said time and time again, I have no idea why we did not pose, we as in retail, pose a question to management about ESS. Like, are people afraid to ask about ESS? I have no idea why. Lucid was very much adamant that that was going to be a game changer for it, but automatically they just dropped it. Obviously, the infrastructure in Saudi Arabia wasn't really there at the time, but since then they've really ramped that up. So logically, why is Lucid not looking at ESS? Because even based on Rivian and this news, it goes to show that the market is valuing expansion. And I don't know, it's just one of those very frustrating things that Rivian, I think, is a lot of people see it as the next big Tesla. It once was Lucid, but Lucid, their management, unfortunately, is just not really doing all that much. So whether it comes from their marketing standpoint, just PR, just their news sucks. I get it. Their product is next level stuff, and this is why I still cover it. I like the expansion, I like the product itself, but almost every other aspect of Lucid just sucks. Like, look at this PR. This PR, majority of these PRs aren't even associated to Lucid itself. It just names Lucid because of abnormal volume or something like that. But you get dilution, you get just associated to Q1 numbers, like very little substantial pieces of news. Whereas Lucid does have a lot of good opportunities, such as ESS, even talking on gravity, but it's it kind of just sucks, like I said. But this is my 2-second rant about Lucid. Hopefully they do put out some substantial pieces of news and do bring on the ESS sometime in 2024, because the market, in my opinion, will very much value that. But even though there was no official news from Lucid, they did post this. It was more of a 1-minute video associated to the gravity. So I just wanted to play this because they actually do in here talk on clay and how they work with clay. So it kind of reminded me of that truck that they had, that clay truck, that prototype. It would be really good to even for them to talk on that, when they plan on even kind of alluding or unveiling that, or whether that was just still more of a test. Again, I'm not really sure. Based on their 2021 projections, they did actually say that there was going to be a truck, Lucid truck, by 2030. So that's, again, one of those things that retail failed by not asking. So I'm just going to quickly play this 1-minute video, then going to go over some of the data points and everything else.
We never wanted to design something that's just another SUV. We wanted to design an SUV that is actually innovative and can be a benchmark for a new generation of SUV that doesn't have a compromise. We didn't want to compromise in space, we didn't want to compromise the sportiness and performance, but still having really good road presence. So all that combined was giving us this architecture that we were working through.
A lot of studios don't use clay anymore, but we really believe in being able to actually see the car and touch, feel the surfaces. You're also able to
And see, that part right there reminded me of the truck, the Lucid truck that we kind of saw outside. I think it was AMP1, but no context given. I think it was just maybe a drone that took a picture of that, or whether it was an employee. I'm not really sure how that was actually came out to be, but still that part reminded me of that.
And it sculpt the light and the shadow, so you really understand how the surfaces really spread and are held by the wheels, for example.
The face of the car is like a freight train coming at you. And I like that because it's sleek, sporty, and elegant on one hand, but also has a power to it that is recognizable from hundreds of feet away. I would love that this car is seen as a game changer. It's the new standard for what an electric SUV needs to be.
So again, gravity will be a very big catalyst for Lucid whenever it does come out. But aside from that though, let's go over some of the data points, starting off with what shorts did. So when it comes down to shorts, they did increase 1.59 million shares. 30.77% of the free float is being shorted. Works out to be 272.58 million shares overall are being shorted. And that equates to $769 million worth. Utilization 95.72, cost to borrow average 37%, and then the minimum is 26.87. And through interactive broker, short availability does indicate a measly 21 shares is available to be shorted. So again, they're kind of overextended. So this is where you could see a very nice bump up in the stock price. My own opinion, of course, but we'll just have to wait and see what does happen. Options though is very optimistic. So today there was 773,000 in calls, 135 in puts. Sentiment wise, 70% of all the options being done today were optimistic and bullish, insinuating that the stock price might actually be going up sooner rather than later. And there is a consensus for it to be above $3 in the next couple of weeks, or within the next couple of weeks. So again, that's fairly good stuff. I've been saying this for a while, that a lot of the data points are pointing to Lucid breaking out. Just the only thing that you do need is institutions to buy it a little bit more, just to add some strong support levels. And I'm going to talk on support levels in a second, but with NVIDIA earnings just coming out, I feel like the broader market is getting that green rubber stamp, A-OK for it to go higher. So maybe institutions will start to look at a lot of the value plays out there, such as Lucid. So hopefully that could really stand to benefit. These are some of the transactions that did occur today on the dark pool. So dark pool often enough linked to shorting and whatever else, but still this was very abnormally low, if that kind of makes sense. But all in all, with it at $2.89 where it did close at, it is trading between this R1 and this R2. And so today was another day that this R1 was the saving grace. So kind of bounced off of that general area for I think the third consecutive day. So just watch for that going forward into the next couple of days to continue to hold. It didn't really touch this R2, so $2.97 will be that next strong resistance point / target for Lucid. So once it does gain some momentum, then it in reality should be able to run up to around 350. The Elliott wave technicals are pointing the exact same thing as I brought up in my video yesterday. So definitely just take note of some of the strong support and resistance points. One thing as well I just wanted to bring up is a lot more actual articles are coming out about Lucid. And so I think that's kind of a good thing. So these are all the articles coming out, and a lot of them are somewhat optimistic. And I think that's a nice change of events as well. I'm not going to go over the actual articles and read them to you because you guys can do that on your own. But on the actual chart itself, still higher percentile of the Bollinger Band. And this is probably one of the very first times in almost a year and a half that Lucid's actually stayed above that 50-day moving average for longer than about 3 or 4 days. So I think we all deserve a pat on the back just for that in among itself. So right now, like I said, higher percentile of the Bollinger Band, kind of wedge bound between that 100-day moving average and 50 right here. So for those of you that do options, this is the perfect dream to collect some premiums until it either breaks out or either breaks lower. But in my opinion, I think the market is just waiting for some reason to just go higher. So we'll just wait and see for that. On stochastic, you do see a bearish deviation as well. It is at 41. So if it does continue on the status quo, then this is where it could be considered a value play, like I already mentioned previously, and you could get a rush of value investors coming in associated to that. And even though a lot of the data is looking very optimistic, you do see retail selling out. So I'm not really sure why. So if you're one of those individuals that is selling, let me know why. I'm kind of curious because like over this last little bit, things have been looking very optimistic, like I said, for more of a breakout to occur. So for people to sell out now, I'm not really sure, unless they maybe got in at the mid 2s, so they just want to collect their profit at this stage. Again, I'm not really sure. So let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. What's your thoughts, for instance, on Rivian's news? Do you think that Lucid could put out something very similar, or do you think that they should? And why do you think Lucid is so quiet? Again, I find that very, very frustrating because there is a lot of things that Lucid could really talk on, but sometimes they just don't. And on a flip side, some of the news that they do put out isn't really news, it's just promotion. So it's kind of, I don't know, their marketing change. I know they've done a lot of big VP changes over this last 2 years, I think 3 big swaps, but they really need to focus on their marketing, and because it's all about marketing, right? Like they've even said it in the past, they want word of mouth to be one of the biggest criterias that Lucid sells, or sells Lucids, if that makes sense. Even test drives, but you're not really doing that good of a job for marketing. So I feel like something just doesn't add up for there. So let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. One final thing, take advantage of this promo. Simply sign up for a new account, throw $100 at it, and they give you 7 fractional shares of the Mag 7. So pretty kick-ass deal. Link in the description below and also the comments. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.